The City of Neenah is pleased to provide video recordings of City Council meetings. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents from the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or completing the electronic feedback form on the city website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the City of Neenah Common Council meeting for Wednesday, February 5th, 2025. The first item on the agenda is the roll call. Please indicate your presence on your roll call device, and the clerk will call the roll.
Alderman Boyette is excused. Alderman Erickson.
Here.
Hillstrom.
Here.
Lendrum.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Allnow.
Here.
Steiner.
Here.
Alderman Ellis is excused, and Council President Borchard.
Here.
Thank you. Alderman Hillstrom, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item then to follow is the presentation on Houses into Homes 2024 recap by Community Development Specialist Samantha Jefferson. So I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening. We had a wonderful time in 2024 administering the Houses into Homes program. So I'm here to give you a brief recap, talk about things that might change in 2025, and answer any questions that you might have. So as a review, the funding for this program was made possible by TIF extensions. So the state allowed municipalities to hold open TIFs that are closing for an additional year to capture the increment to be used for affordable housing. So when our TIFs 5 and 6 closed, we were able to do that, and we captured about $850,000 to be used for this program. Also to review, so the Houses into Homes program is broken down into two sub-programs: the Curb Appeal Grant Program and the Refresh and Renew Loan Program. Both programs are matching, which means that owner-occupied properties have to bring 50% of the project cost to the table, 75% for investment properties. The program, it overlaps a little bit on what projects are eligible, but for the most part, the Curb Appeal Grant Program is exterior projects, where the Refresh and Renew Loan Program are larger, more comprehensive exterior and exterior projects. Our program goals we wanted to keep simple. We wanted to make sure that the City of Neenah had quality, affordable housing choices for people who live in them, and we wanted to make sure we maintained our housing stock. We wanted to attract investment to these neighborhoods. We all know that if a neighbor makes an investment in a property, the other neighbor is more likely to want to invest in their property, and so it goes throughout the neighborhoods. We also wanted to reduce municipal code violations, which we actually did get done with a few of our projects. So in 2024, 20 projects were completed. We actually have one additional project that is under contract that didn't get done this past year, but is planned for the spring. So there were 16 curb appeal projects and 4 refresh and renew projects. And these projects were a huge gamut between re-siding, front porch restorations, painting, we had tree removals, we had an interior remodel, so a large amount of variety of projects. This week equaled approximately $87,000 in city investment. That additional under contract would be an additional $15,000 that we have pledged. That is a loan. So actually out of the $87,000, about $45,000 of that is in loans that will be put back into the program when these homes sell or if the owners decide to pay that back sooner. So my coworker Kayla, you might have seen this in the community development annual report. She put this map together. It just kind of gives you an idea of where these projects happened. So the green represents curb appeal projects and the gold represents the refresh and renew. It was really good to hear kind of towards the end of this construction year. I really started to hear a lot of, oh, my neighbor did this project with your program, and I want to do this, and oh, I saw the guy down the street. So that was really nice that we know that word of mouth is happening throughout the island. So now this is the fun part. These are some before and after photos. So this project was a re-siding project. They actually did the house and the garage utilizing this program. This property actually did not have a garage at all, so they put up a new garage, which of course we know makes this property so much more desirable. They can park their cars there, they can put things in it, so we were really happy we could help them with this. This is a front porch restoration, so yes, they updated the aesthetics of the front porch, but actually they did a lot of structural work with this project as well. So that's maintaining the housing stock, not only for the owners that are there now, but for the future. So this you can see aesthetically is just a huge difference for not only for this property, but for the neighborhood. We helped with painting and we helped with window replacement. And in this one, this was a simple painting project, but you can just see the difference in the aesthetic of that house. This was actually, this one in particular, the neighbors started coming to me for projects as well. So these are just a few things that we heard from the program. As you can see, Habitat for Humanity, we worked with them with a couple of projects. They passed along just how grateful those owners were. I worked with some first-time home buyers that they were honest. They wanted to do a whole bunch of things with their house, but they just bought a house. So they were able to get a project done that they wanted to get done. I heard many times that people could not have done these projects without this program. It just wouldn't have happened. So moving ahead to 2025, very minor changes when it comes to our end with processes or the assessed value requirement moved up a little bit, which we expected because of the rising house costs, which means actually more parcels will be eligible. But the biggest change, if you remember in 2024, and you saw from the boundary map, we used Doty Island as a pilot program. So we wanted to see what would happen, what kind of projects we would get if this was going to be totally unmanageable. It wasn't, so we feel confident going into 2025 that we're going to open this up to the entire city. So it's a lot. That means there's a lot of parcels that are going to be eligible. We're going to see how it goes and make sure we're making sure this is going to stay a quality program that we can help a lot of people and do it well. So we're excited to see what projects we can help with in 2025. That's all I have. It's brief, but if you have any questions, I would be happy to take them.
Alderman Lundrum.
Thank you. That was excellent. So which is the next section? That was Doty Island.
So we're opening to the whole of the city.
Oh, you're not going section by section now.
We talked about that, but we
Okay.
we think we're going to be able to do it. So,
Okay.
But we'll watch it.
That sounds great. I had the unique opportunity to be able to, because I live over in this first section, to drive by, obviously several times a day. And it was funny because I thought some of these houses must have been in the program. And I called you. Remember, I called you and I said, wow, I see a couple of people really doing some, big changes in that same area. And you're like, no, that's not us. That's not that program. That's them. And so you are not kidding about it being, contagious. I just think when somebody sees in a modest neighborhood, if somebody sees somebody really putting forth some investment into their home, they're like, oh, well, then it would be worth it for us to do that too. And that's exactly what happened. And so we saw many dumpsters outside of houses that weren't even in this program. So it's not only does it work in the program, it's catching. So it worked perfectly.
Absolutely.
So thank you for all your
of
work on
course.
this.
It was fun.
Alderman Steiner.
So I definitely see the value of improving the quality of the housing. I'm wondering, is there an element to the plan that also incentivizes the increase of overall quantity or inventory of housing? Because I'm assuming that these, maybe it wasn't as nice to live in them before, but people were living in them, right? And this makes it nicer, which I support that. But I'm wondering, is there an opportunity as well of looking at just increasing the overall quantity?
We have talked about that as a potential in the future. Like I said, we can use it for affordable housing. So the state has left it a little bit open. And that would be a question, of course, for Chris. But that is something we have talked about,
Okay.
potentially using these funds.
So we budgeted last year and this year $200,000 of the funds to go to these two programs. And I think Samantha's correct. We've had conversations. I don't think we have found the project or projects that would help on the quantity side. But I think as those opportunities come forward, we certainly would explore if they are close but unable to bring the project to fruition because of a gap. Perhaps this fund could help with that.
Oh, okay. So if I read that, it's probably the current developers are able to do it without that assistance, so why not utilize the funds for improving the quality of the stock where people would not be doing it otherwise?
Right. We have, I mean, you're familiar with the affordable housing tax credit projects. If something like that would come forward that had a gap, and part of our challenge is $800,000 is a lot of money, but that's a limited pool of funds. So we have to be tactful. So as an example, is adding single family to the supply, you're going to add several units and have a good chance of depleting the funds. So we have to be wise in how we utilize those funds.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Erickson?
Thank you. How did you get the word out on this project? How did people know about this?
So this first year, we didn't market very much because we wanted to kind of see what we're going to get without marketing. It went really quickly, actually, because the Doty Island newsletter, they put it in there right away. We have talked about in this coming year marketing more, making a more pointed marketing campaign.
So is that something you would put in the city newsletter that would go out to the entire city?
It is going out in the next newsletter. So we did that. We talked about putting potentially signs, if people were willing, putting signs in their yards that they had participated in this program. So there's been a couple of different things we've talked about, but kind of we were holding back at first to just see kind of how it was going to spread.
And did you ever have to turn down somebody for any reason?
No, we have not turned down anyone. And in general, usually when they call or when they first put in their application, it's pretty evident what the eligibility requirements were. So I really didn't have anyone apply that wasn't eligible. I did have a couple people that did not want to get two bids for
Okay.
projects, and then they just didn't want to do that
work.
kind of work. Yeah. So,
Okay.
but that was the only time I had to kind of turn people away.
Okay.
Alderman Weber?
Samantha, it is a really great program. Glad to see the first year kicked off well. And you mentioned now opening up to the city, there's going to be a lot more parcels that are eligible. What does that mean? Like, how do we quantify that percentage-wise, or, just to have an idea, what does that mean?
Sure. So we kind of looked at it before we made this decision, and what we did is we kind of put it on a map and we looked at all of the potential parcels that were eligible. The thing that keeps it a little bit manageable is it is a match program. So I did have people come and say, well, I really need this project done. Okay, great. This is, what you would need to match. Well, I don't, have those funds. So then we would approach Carroll, the CDBG program, and see if that was an opportunity for them. So there are a lot of parcels, and like I said, we put the map up and we greened out all the ones that were eligible, but realizing that, there are going to be some hurdles that people have to face with the work they have to do or things like that. And there may be projects they want to do that aren't eligible for this program as well. So,
Just going off, I would estimate that we are probably 4 or 5 times as many eligible parcels in 25 than we were in 24. Is that a fair number, Samantha?
I would
Or
think
trying
so.
to just look at it visually, thinking about that map. There's quite a few more.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much, Samantha.
thank you.
It's great. There are no appointments to be introduced tonight, so the next item on the agenda is the approval of council proceedings. minutes and proceedings of January 15th. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of the approval of those minutes and proceedings? Seeing no objection, those minutes and proceedings are approved. The next item on the agenda is the public forum. Is there anyone here who would like to speak during the public forum portion of our meeting this evening? Please give your name and residential address.
Good evening. My name is Kate Hancock Cook. I live at 216 Bosworth Court in Neenah. And I'm here today because I've been reading in the paper about a couple of bills that are going to be coming before our state legislator that entail our local police force being used for particular immigration actions. And on one hand, there's a bill that says that wants us to say that our local and county forces cannot be used. And then there's another bill saying that yes, they can be used for immigration enforcement actions for people who are just here undocumented. Nobody's committed a crime, but they could be held. And the bill that has just been introduced is saying that our local police would be responsible to act as ICE agents or support in that, and that we would be fined 15% of some amount. I mean, there's going to be fines if we don't have our local police participate. I think that's a concern that all of a sudden now the federal government's going to start telling our resources what we need to be doing. I don't think it's time well spent. But I just wanted to make everybody aware that those bills are in the legislature, and if you have anybody who's working down there, give them a call.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public forum portion of the meeting? Seeing no one, I will close the public forum and move on to Mayor Council consideration of public forum issues. Is there anyone who would like to speak relative to the public forum? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the consent agenda. 3 items on the consent agenda: receive and place on file the revised master plan of Arrowhead Park. Item B, authorize the chairman of the Public Services and Safety Committee to sign the special assessment report for preliminary resolution 2024-23. Item C is authorize the chairman of the Public Services and Safety Committee to sign the special assessment report for preliminary resolution 2024-25. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of those items? Alderman Paulno.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to pull out the accept and place on file the revised master plan of Arrowhead Park for separate consideration. So I don't know if I had to do it by motion or can just say it.
You can just pull it out.
Okay, and I didn't know if that goes to later in the agenda, or do we do that now?
That could go in the regular Public Services and
Okay.
Safety Committee meeting report.
All right, thank you.
Is there any objection to unanimous consent of items B and C? Seeing none, those items are approved. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, reports of standing committees, the regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of January 28th. Chairman Lendrum.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from the, as you said, regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of January 28th, 2025. Minutes can be found on the city website. Item number 1, committee recommends council approve the contract amendment with Grafe Engineering in the amount of $12,700 for Arrowhead Master Plan modifications and for additional engineering work required for the DNR for the placement of additional fill material on Arrowhead Park. Funding for the amendment to be provided from the Arrowhead Park carry forward funds included in the 2025 capital improvement budget, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Alderman Paulno.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'll be voting against this as well thought out and as much work as going in Arrowhead Park. I realize I just don't think all the time, energy, and money for this over the last 10 years has been money well spent. I think the energy that's been utilized could be used in other city items. So I will be voting against this. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 6-1.
Item number 2, committee recommends council approve contracting with ECS Midwest LLC to provide 22 geotechnical borings and boring analysis on Arrowhead Park at the cost of $71,290. Funding for the exploration work to be provided from Arrowhead Park carry forward funds included in the 2025 capital improvement budget, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Weber. Alderman Paulno.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'll be voting against this as well. Over the years, I've seen so much money expended in Arrowhead Park, which I think is an admirable goal. I just don't think it's a proper utilization of resources. Also, I don't feel that I have the full picture. I know we have an environmental attorney that we spent over $50,000. That's key to this, and I still don't really have a current update on that. So I really don't feel I have the full picture. So I'll be voting against this as well. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 6-1.
Item number 3, committee recommends council approve the purchase of a 2025 John Deere 1025R compact tractor with attachments from Reister and Schnell in the amount of $40,357.88 and purchase additional small equipment for the tractor not to exceed $2,000. The funding source for this purchase is coming from the capital equipment budget, and the budgeted amount was $50,000, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Council President Borchert. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-0.
Item number 4, committee recommends council approve the purchase of an OBO DCL 700 skid-mounted leaf vac, or snuffle up, I guess, as some of us know it, from RNOW Incorporated in the amount of $98,575.25, and additional materials to fabricate the leaf box and picker not to exceed $20,000. And the budgeted amount was $120,000, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-0.
Item number 5, committee recommends council approve the purchase of a combined 124 refuse, I think that's supposed to say, and recycle carts from Sierra Container Group in the amount of $39,786, and the budgeted amount was $42,000, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Weber. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-0.
Item number 6, committee recommends council authorize the Neenah Police Department to purchase replacement vehicles for squad number 1, squad number 5, the behavioral health officer vehicle number 23, community service aid vehicle number 34, and the MEG unit pickup truck number 28, with not to exceed amount of $282,000 to include all equipment and changeover costs. And the chief is here tonight if anyone has any questions, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Council President Borchert. Is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for the chief. Can you explain the vehicle for the behavioral health officer and how that will be used?
So the question is, how is the BHO going to utilize his vehicle?
Yes, and will it be used by anybody else other than that particular person?
Just him. So, for example, he's at the hospital right now for a Chapter 51. His shift ended at 4 p.m. So he's been assisting patrol with Chapter 51 with the mentally ill person. So his vehicle's been with him all day. He's at the hospital now. No one else would be able to utilize it. So it's going to be his for, it'll probably be a BHO vehicle for 10 or more years if it's only going to be utilized by the one person. So as opposed to like a patrol vehicle that's ran 24 hours a day, they'd only last for a few years. This will just be used for, you know, the 40 plus hours a week of overtime, or 40 hours a week plus the overtime. So it's going to be in our fleet for many, many years to come.
And it won't be marked particularly for this, it will just be marked as a Neenah police vehicle, correct?
It will have no markings. It'll be an unmarked vehicle.
An unmarked vehicle,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's a little bit a softer approach for when he's dealing with someone in a mentally ill or, you know, crisis.
Okay,
So,
okay, thank you.
thank you.
Are there any additional questions or discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-0.
So I guess that means the seventh item would be the consent agenda item. Okay, that will be number 7. Council is asked to receive and place on file the revised master plan of Arrowhead Park, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Is there discussion on this item? Alderman Paulno.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank Alderman Lendrum from, my main concern was the verbiage, actually, where it says accept in place, but she changed that to receive in place and file like we had been recommended. So I'll definitely be supporting this.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-0.
And that's the end of my report.
Thank you for your report. The next item on the agenda is the regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of January 27th. Chairman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from the regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of January 27th, 2025, the committee recommends council approve the purchase of Quadrant DS64I folder inserter from Office Enterprises at a cost of $10,923.50 using public equipment fund balance, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Steiner. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-0.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. The next item on the agenda, reports of special committees and liaisons. Regular Plan Commission meeting of January 28th was canceled. Board of Public Works meeting of January 21st is information only items. So there is no report on that. However, the Board of Public Works meeting of today, February 5th, Vice Chairman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 3 items this evening that were voted on this morning. First one, board recommends the council approve the final pay request, contract 2-24 East Doty Street from South Commercial to Pine Street, sanitary sewer and lateral, storm sewer, water main and street construction, Krujek Construction Incorporated, in the amount of $405,660.31, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Hillstrom, seconded by Alderman Lundrum. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-0.
The second item, board recommends to council to approve the final pay request, contract 5-24 North Street, joint project with the Village of Fox Crossing, sanitary sewer and lateral, storm sewer, water main, and street construction, David Tenner Corporation, in the amount of $145,544.41, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Hillstrom, seconded by Alderman Lendrum. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-0.
And the third and last item this evening, Board recommends to Council to approve the final pay request contract 8-24 miscellaneous hot mix asphalt repairs to MCC Incorporated in the amount of $92,594.20, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Hillstrom, seconded by Alderman Lendrum. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-0.
That concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. The next item is Business Improvement District Board, and Alderman Ellis is excused tonight, so we'll move that to the next council meeting. Next item is the Neenah Arts Council report from Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. On Thursday, January 16th, the Neenah Arts Council toured the Jack Richardson Gallery in Kimberly, and we held our meeting there. It was a really interesting meeting, and so that was fun to do. So, and that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. The next item is Bergstrom Mahler Museum report from Council President Borchert.
Thank you, Mayor. In case anyone's looking for something to do on Valentine's Day weekend, Night at the Museum edition Baccarat is available from 7 to 10 on February 15th. That's Saturday. A lot of fun to be had. It's being held at the Bergstrom Mahler Museum.
Thank you for your report. And the final report, Parks and Recreation Commission, Alderman Weber.
Thank you, Mayor. The Park and Rec Commission met on January 30th. There were only 3 items. They were the same 3 items pertaining to Arrowhead Park that we talked about in the Public Services and Safety Review. And all 3 items passed unanimously by the Park and Rec Commission. So that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. The next item, are there any petitions? No petitions. There are no petitions. Are there any council directives? Is there any unfinished business? Is there any new business? Council President Borchert.
More of an announcement, or a couple weeks back I was able to take part in the point in time process with the looking for unhoused people in the Fox Valley. It was a late night, early morning, if you will, but I was impressed with the organization and the ability that we do in the Fox Valley to take care of the people that are without homes. I encourage, if anyone wants to, it'll be a little nicer when they do it in August than it was. But what we did was Lisa Strandberg, this executive director from Pillars, was in our crew, and we had a map, and then we went to all the known places that around Neenah where some of the homeless people might be staying. We were given supplies and things where we would then do a survey with them to kind of be able to increase the amount of resources that we can provide for this population. And so it was eye-opening in the sense that places I pass by every day here in Neenah are often found to be places where people stay overnight, especially in temperatures that are really cold, especially that night. Fortunately, anyway, they had, when weather gets to be as cold as it was that night or that stretch of days, they usually house them in places, and they have the resources to do so. But as Lisa was saying, just an interesting way to look at Neenah, quite differently than we're probably used to. So I would encourage anyone to have that experience. Let me know, and I can get you in contact with Lisa, and we'll do it in the summertime, which would probably be a little bit more. We didn't end up seeing anyone that night, but I know that others had in the Fox Valley area. So,
thank you. Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for Director Hayes. I was wondering if you could give us an update. I've driven by the former Remily Sensenbrenner building, and if you could give us an update on what is happening there.
It's coming down.
That's what,
That's all that's I'm aware of.
so there
There's
hasn't
no-
been a plan for anything other than just to raise the
No,
building?
there have been conversations over the last year or two, but nothing. We're probably further from a redevelopment there today than we were a year ago. So it's just, they're just clearing the site.
Okay, thank you.
Any other new business or announcements?
Motion to adjourn?
There's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second?
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you. We're adjourned.
The City of Neenah is pleased to provide video recordings of City Council meetings. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents from the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or completing the electronic feedback form on the city website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited.